शुक्र खुदा में रज़वी हो।
Alhamdulillah, the month of Jummah Lecture, the month, as we said from the very beginning of the month, this is the month of Ghaus radiallahu anhu. And that is why this Mubarak month is not only known as Jummah Lecture. Jummah Lecture is the formal name, Rabiul Akhir is the formal name, but we even call it Rabiul Ghaus, the month of the blossom of Sarkar Ghaus Azam Jilani Baghdadi radiallahu anhu. Rabi means the springtime. In other words, when everything is blooming. So Rabiul Awwal Sharif, that is why the Mashayikh even refer to it as Rabiul Noor. In other words, the blossoms of light are flowing in the month of the beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Alhamdulillah, we are blessed that we have another day today in the month of Sarkar Ghaus Paak radiallahu ta'ala, to reap the blessings of Sarkar Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani Baghdadi radiallahu anhu, which inshallah through the tajalliyat and the blessings and the fuyuz and barakat, we will continue reaping through the rest of the year as well. Almighty Allah, by His divine grace and by His mercy, has placed these powerful beacons of guidance throughout the dunya. And Allah has placed them on this earth because they are means of our guidance. Allah says in the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa kunu ma'as sadiqeen. O believers, O you who believe, fear Allah. Fear Allah. Wa kunu ma'as sadiqeen. And be with the pious, with the righteous, with the truthful. Keep the company of the pious servants of Allah. So when Allah is saying keep the company of the pious in the Holy Quran, it means they are definitely pious in this dunya. Simple. In every zamana, the Quran is for every zamana. So from then until Qayamat, in all times until the Qayamat will come, until before that, there will always be pious in this world. Whatever the level of their piety may be, there will always be. For Allah is saying, oh believers, keep the company of the pious. Means as long as there will be believers, there will be pious. There will be pious servants of Allah. And who are the pious? Not those who want to dress to make themselves look pious. Not those who self-claim piety. Pious are those who truly fear Allah. Taqwa means to fear Allah. And these pious servants of Allah, whom Allah has placed on the earth for the sake of enlightening the hearts of the people, the Muslims, and for keeping them close in the court of Allah. That is why Allah says, keep the company of the pious. Keep the company of those who fear Allah, because then you too will learn how to fear Allah. You too will learn how to fear Allah. And keeping the company of the pious are for the believers. It is for the believers, because Allah is saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. In other words, you have brought Iman, you are a believer. But to keep that Iman salamat, you must stay in the company of the pious people. You must keep the company of the righteous. And the righteous are those people. Look, the Quran is Allah's kalam. Everybody reads it who claims to be a Muslim. But mazhabs also read. But how come that they are not guided, they are misguided? Because Allah says in the Quran, Hudal lil muttaqeen. Allah says in the Quran that the Quran is what? Guidance for the Allah fearing. Guidance for those who fear Allah, those who are pious. So this Quran is a guidance for the believers, but you have to have some level of khawf khuda in your heart. That is why the Akabirin have said that when a person fears, like how we fright, we are afraid of a snake, we are afraid of fire, human nature, nah? But this reason of our fear is because we have not really perfected the level of fearing Allah. We fear at a certain level. But look at Sarkar Ghaus Azam Jilani al-Baghdadi radiallahu anhu. Look at Sarkar Khaja Khajagan Khaja Mainuddin Chishti Ajmeri Sindari radiallahu anhu. Look at Imam Ahl Sunnat ala Hazrat Adimul Barakat radiallahu anhu and the other awliya Allah. They feared none of these things. Why? Because they fear for Allah Almighty had reached that level of perfection. They had kamil fear. They truly feared Almighty Allah. That is why you will find that when they wanted to do something, the path was very easy. They had to make effort. They faced hardships, but when they wanted it, it opened. Why? Because the pious, when you have fear for Allah, when you fear Allah, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. When you fear Allah, then Allah is saying in the Quran, and those who fear Allah, for them what will happen? Allah will open a way. Allah will open a way. You have financial difficulties today. We have so many other difficulties. People today want to sell their deen for the dunya. They want to compromise their iman for money. They want to compromise what Allah and His Rasul said for name and fame. Because they say, if we don't do that, how will we earn? Have they not understood what the Quran is saying? وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. That if you fear Allah, then Allah will open for you the way and He will give you sustenance from there where your mind cannot even fathom. Where your akal doesn't even go. From there Allah will give you this. And this is the maqam of the pious servants of Allah who Allah has placed on the earth. The yaqeen that Allah is Razzaq. Today we want to compromise and we want to play games in the deen of Allah because of the worldly pomp and splendor, so that we may get a platform, so that we may have more wealth. But have you forgotten when you die all this will come to an end? The pious servants of Almighty Allah, Allah has bestowed upon them because of their fear for Allah, because they have become Muslim in the true state. They have iman kamil, they have submitted themselves to the will of Allah completely. Shahanshah Baghdad, Ghaus Thaqalain, Fardul Afrad, Qutbul Afthab, Hazrat Sayyidina Shaykh Mahyuddin Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani Al-Baghdadi radiallahu anhu himself says, one waqia for you to understand and for me to better understand. Sarkar Ghaus Paak radiallahu anhu himself says that when I went on my first journey for Hajj from Iraq, from Baghdad Muqaddas, when I went for my first journey for Hajj, Sayyidina Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani radiallahu anhu said, I went alone. They didn't travel on flights. They didn't have the luxuries that we have today, and we still complain. I went for Hajj, I didn't get to eat biryani, I ate dal. We still complain. Hazrat Sarkar Ghaus Azam said, I went for Hajj, I was alone. I was traveling alone at that time, very young. And listen to the heart, inshallah. Sarkar Ghaus Paak said, I'm traveling for Hajj, very young, I'm alone. I traveled until a certain distance. I'm being brief because time is not permitting to give you the lengthy discussion. I'm giving you the gist of the narration. He said, I traveled for a distance. Sarkar Ghaus Paak says, I'm traveling alone, I'm going for Hajj, I'm going to Makkah. And on the way, I'm alone. But as I traveled and I came to a certain point on my journey, I met Hazrat Sayyiduna Adi bin Musafir radiallahu anhu. Who I met? Hazrat Sayyiduna Adi bin Musafir radiallahu anhu. He asked me, who are you? So I told him who I am. I introduced myself. He said, where are you going? He said, I'm going for Hajj, I'm going to Makkah. He said, are you by yourself? He said, yes. He said, you now have company. Hazrat Adi bin Musafir, very great wali Allah. Time is not permitting, otherwise I would have told you more about him. He said, we are now a company, we will travel together. Hazrat Sarkar Ghaus Paak said, we traveled through the jungles by foot and whichever other way. We traveled through the forest, and Sarkar Ghaus Paak said, as we were traveling, we came across an old, weak, very frail-looking African woman from Abyssinia, Ethiopia. We came across a very old African woman from Ethiopia, from Abyssinia. Very thin, very weak. And she was covered in her burqa. She was completely covered. And as we came across her, she looked at me and she said to me, who are you? Who are you? And he said, I introduced myself, that this is who I am. She said, where did you come from? Where are you from? He said, I'm originally from Gilan. This old Abyssinian woman, very thin, frail looking, covered in a burqa. When Ghaus Paak said who he was, she said, you have exhausted me. What did she say? Aapne mujhe thaka diya. You have exhausted me. Sarkar Ghaus Paak says, what do you mean I exhausted you? She said, I was in Africa, in Abyssinia, in my home country. And I saw the tajalli of my Rabb on the skies. And my Rabb informed me of the maqam of a personality. And you are that personality. My Rabb informed me of the maqam of a personality. You are that personality. I immediately left Abyssinia in the hope that somewhere on the way to the Haram I will find you. Allah Akbar. This is the African connection to Sarkar Ghaus Paak radiallahu anhu. Waliya, African Waliya Kamila from Africa is being bestowed and is being given inspiration and ilham about the journey of Sarkar Ghaus Paak radiallahu ta'ala anhu. She says this to Sarkar Ghaus Paak radiallahu, and she said, now I will travel with you people. And I will make sahri with you people, and I will make iftar with you people. So you remember how long before they've started to travel to go. Okay? So Sarkar Ghaus Paak says, myself and Hazrat Adi bin Musafir walked on one side of the road, on one end, on that end, and she walked on the other end of the road. Look at the adab and the lihaz of a woman. Today men sit with their daughter-in-laws and daughters in their house and watch movies full of khabasat. And you want to know why my house is not coming right. Mere ghar ke maamlat kyun nahi theek ho? Two of them on the other end of the road, and the woman old, although she was very old. The rule changes sometimes. She was on the other side. But she walked on the total other end. And they said when the time would come to have a meal, she would come and sit somewhere not very far from us. It was time of iftar the first day. Sarkar Ghaus Paak radiallahu anhu said, she came and she said, I will make iftar with you. So we got in this one particular area to make iftar. She was at a distance from us. Ghaus Paak said, the moment we sat down to make iftar, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. So Ghaus Paak says that the moment we sat down to make iftar, we saw a tray coming down from the asman. We saw a tray coming down from the asman on which were 6 roti. On which was 6 pieces of bread, 6 roti, and vinegar, sirka, and some vegetables. It came from the heavens. And it descended in front of her. And he said when she looked at it, she smiled. He said, oh Allah, you have kept my honor. Every day you send me 2. I was wondering what's going to happen today. You send me 6. وَمَا يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب ومن يتوكل على الله فهو حسبه إن الله بالغ أمره قد جعل لكل شيء قدرا. Look at that where it came from. Ghaus Paak said we ate to our stomachs full and then descended 3 jugs of water, 3 goblets of water. I have never tasted anything sweeter on this earth before. And he said then this woman disappeared. And again we found her when we went to the Haram of Makkah. She was already there. What the point is? The point is that these are those servants of Allah who recognized Sarkar Ghaus Paak radiallahu anhu while in Africa. There was no communication system. There was no internet. There was no Wi-Fi. What was the form of connection? The tajalliyat from the court of Almighty Allah. What was it? That they were so absorbed in the love of their Rabb that when Allah announces the wilayat of any of His beloved servants of Allah, then it is manifested upon the hearts of the awliya Allah throughout the world. And that is why she was in Africa. And she received ilham and message of the maqam of Sarkari Ghaus Paak radiallahu anhu, and she journeyed to meet Sarkari Ghaus Paak radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So to journey towards the pious has been the tariqah of the pious in every era. Not like these Wahhabis and these Bad Mazhab say, if you journey towards a pious, you become a mushrik. If you journey towards a qabr, you will become a mushrik. No, you don't become a mushrik. If you journey towards a qabr of a believer, you are saving yourself from shirk. You are saving yourself from shirk. Because when you go to the mazar of Hazrat Shapir radiallahu anhu, or you go to the mazar of Sarkari Khaja Garibun Nawaz or any wali, you go there saying that this is wali Allah, this is not Allah. This is wali Allah, this is the beloved and the friend of Allah. The moment you say the beloved of Allah, you are believing that he can never be Allah. So you got saved from shirk, you didn't commit shirk. But the idea is to dupe, to confuse the minds of the layman. And never fall for these traps. Hold firm to the pious servants of Allah. Because Allah is saying, وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Allah is saying in the Holy Quran, Allah is saying, هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Guidance is through them. These are the truly pious ones. If we keep this in our minds, we will realize how important these powerful beacons of light and guidance are throughout the dunya. And how fortunate we are that we have a form of connection to them. So, if you want to strengthen your fear of Allah, if you want to strengthen your love for the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then strengthen your connection with the pious servants of Almighty Allah. And you will find that you will be connected in the court of the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam at a very powerful and a very beautiful manner. Allah keep us with Iman. Let us leave this world with Iman.